Nintendo recently released a trailer for the first official look at the Switch 2, and the internet is divided. Some people are incredibly excited about it, and some people are incredibly critical. Personally, as somebody who has owned a Nintendo product for the literal entirety of his life, I'm really excited for it. And I'm not like the hugest Nintendo fan. It's not like I don't think they can do anything wrong, but I do think that Nintendo does a good job, and I think that they're probably going to see a lot of success with the Switch 2. And I'll tell you why I feel that way. First, here's some of what I've been seeing looking through Facebook comment sections, things like that. I'm seeing a lot of people say, oh, this is just the new Game Boy because Nintendo's making another handheld console. I see, oh, it's a kid's toy. It's just the same thing, but a little bit bigger. I see a lot of people asking, oh, is it going to have stick drift? It looks like those Joy-Cons would come off way too easily. Is it going to be underpowered? Oh, is Nintendo going to continue to put no focus on graphics? And I'm going to be real, I have a lot to say about that one. So let's get into it. What I see the Switch 2 as is just an evolution of the Switch, which some people are acting like that's like not enough. I guess maybe because of Nintendo's track record with the innovation when you look at things like the Wii and how the Switch changed things. But to me, it's like every other gaming company, every Xbox, every PlayStation was just an evolution of the previous one. None of them did things like Nintendo did. They just grew on what they had before. And now Nintendo does that with the Switch 2, and somehow it's like, oh, this pathetic attempt at a cash grab. And I just don't see it that way. I just see them taking something they have that works incredibly well and just trying to make it work better. I don't see any issue with that. As far as who the Switch 2 is aimed at, the way I see it is that with the Switch, it didn't matter if you're an adult or you're a kid. There's something on the Switch that you can enjoy. And if you're like me and you're someone who games together with his family, then the Switch is one of the best consoles ever because of the accessibility for kids, the fact that there are games that you could play with your children like Smash Bros and Mario Party and Mario Kart. It's just incredible. My wife and I sit down every night and we play Smash Bros with our 10-year-old and our 6-year-old. And I'll tell you what, we are like vicious. We don't take it easy on them. I would bet money that either of them could get into a match online and probably beat at least a handful of opponents. And the people that they beat would have no idea that they were playing against little kids, especially our 6-year-old. He is viciously good. Viciously good. The change in size to me is something that's very welcome because as somebody who has big hands, honestly, the original Joy-Cons for me caused a lot of numbness and tingling in my hands. I would have to get an actual Pro controller, otherwise it would just be too small for my hands. I'm totally on board with hoping that the stick drift situation has been fixed. However, I do think it would have been kind of strange if in the middle of this reveal trailer they stopped everything and they're like, oh, by the way, we've fixed the stick drift issue. So I imagine that that's something that will come up later on, maybe at a Nintendo Direct. I can't imagine they won't address it. At the very least, they're gonna have attempted to fix it. I do admit that I do have a little bit of concern with the way that the new Joy-Cons go into the side of the console. It does look like it would be easy to accidentally remove them. However, looking really closely at the trailer, it looks like there might be little notches on either end that help keep it in place. So I'm hoping that they have done something to secure those really well. I won't be able to actually know that until I get my hands on one and can look at it. I tend to put stuff to the test. Like, I'm hard on things. I don't mean to be, I just am. When it comes time to discuss the actual power of this thing, it's Nintendo. So I have no doubt that it's going to be underpowered, and I'm okay with that because they put their focus on things that to me as a gamer matter. Like, I want my games to be fun. I want them to be good. I don't really worry as much about graphics. Some of my favorite games don't have good graphics. My favorite game of all time is Hollow Knight, and it's beautiful, but those graphics aren't like these unbelievable hyper-realistic graphics. They're this hand-drawn cartoon that just sucks you into this world, and it's incredible. My other favorite games these days are the Blasphemous games, and those look like something out of the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era, and those weren't exactly the best graphics ever, but they were still good. They looked nice. They were pleasant to see, and they're not hyper-realistic. They don't have ray tracing or anything like that. I don't think they need it, which brings me to the point of the graphics. All over the comments section, you've got people dragging Nintendo because they don't focus on graphics, and I just think those people are so wrong for thinking that way, and you're welcome to think that way, but I disagree with you wholeheartedly. To me, the focus of gaming should be making a good game that's engaging and fun and that works. It seems to me that since we've got this massive focus on graphics and trying to make things look realistic is what's led to this ballooning of budgets and cost to develop these new games, because they spend years and years and years trying to make things look more and more realistic, and it doesn't actually add any value to the gameplay. And people will say, oh, it's about immersion or whatever, but what good is it to be fully immersed in a game where the water looks realistic and the leaves blow in the wind and all that if it's just full of bugs, or it's boring, or it's incomplete, or if it took 15 years to release because they were so busy focusing on all this stuff instead of actually just making the game playable and fun. I guess what I'm saying is, if graphics are your primary concern, then buy a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. Just go for it. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm gonna play Nintendo. I also game on my PC. I'm not saying I don't enjoy beautiful graphics, but they are the least important thing in my eyes when it comes to enjoying a video game. To me, games should focus entirely on fun, not just graphics and size, because there's this major focus nowadays that games need to be 80 to 100 hours long and all this stuff. And maybe, you know, that could be the case when the prices are getting so high, but I contend that you can have a more affordable game by focusing on making it good rather than big, like the indie game market. And yes, there's a lot of crap on the indie game market. There are a lot of really great games out there. Hollow Knight is one of the best games I've ever played, and it's universally loved, incredibly well rated on Steam, and it costs $15 full price. But I think that this focus on fun is the exact reason why Nintendo has absolutely nothing to fear from Sony or Microsoft. Even a lot of people who are diehard fans of those systems still own a Nintendo console as a companion console. They still play them for games like Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Metroid games, Fire Emblem, Smash Bros, Splatoon, Mario Kart, or any other huge variety of Nintendo exclusive IP. On top of all that, I still genuinely feel like the multiplayer on Nintendo consoles stands alone at the top. The last time I played an Xbox game in the same room as another person was on the Xbox 360. It was the original Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. But yet I still find time to play every day on the Switch with my kids, and it reminds me of growing up playing video games with my brother and my sister. Let me reiterate that Nintendo does a lot of stuff that I dislike, like their general disdain for emulation and the preservation of retro video games, or the way that they crush small creators who mod their games, or the fact that they hold on so tightly to the F-Zero IP without ever doing anything with it, instead of like hiring some indie developer to make a game that those of us who would love to play it would get to enjoy. Or the fact that they offer us a subscription service to play retro games instead of giving us a solid option to actually buy and own the retro games. But for all that they do wrong, they do a lot of stuff right, like making fun games that don't completely rely on the gimmick of beautiful graphics to distract you from the fact that you're playing a boring piece of crap, or the fact that they don't fill up their catalog with these carbon copy live service trash games that nobody actually wants. So yes, me personally, I'm very excited about the Switch 2, though there is one criticism that I have seen a lot that I totally agree with, and that is that the name, the Switch 2, is a little bit on the weak side. And I personally was was really pulling for the Super Switch because, like anybody else who grew up in the era, you knew that there was the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and when they evolved that, it was the Super NES, the Super Nintendo. So it would have been such a cool nod to that era to improve the Switch as much as they could and just call it the Super Switch. I'm still holding out hope that, like the developers of the Sonic movie, maybe we can bully them into it. I mean, the internet's capable of some incredible things. Don't get me wrong though, I understand the point of calling it the Switch 2. It's been working for Sony for literally decades. The PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 4, and the PlayStation 5. At least we're not on some freaking roller coaster like Xbox. Nintendo's naming has never been the best. The Wii and the Wii U were just not great names. The Switch made sense. The Switch 2 makes sense, but the Super Switch knocks it out of the park. So what are your thoughts on this one? Are you excited to see what Nintendo has to offer, or are you skeptical? What's your opinion on the name choice? Hit that comment section and let's start a discussion. Nintendo also announced during their trailer to be on the lookout for some more news at an upcoming Nintendo Direct. So mark your calendars for April 2nd and get ready for more announcements. I know I personally will be watching and hoping for some more good news from the most experienced company in the gaming industry. If you enjoyed this and you'd like more little news updates on things like this once in a while, or if you're interested in retro gaming content and lots of nostalgia-driven walks down memory lane, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and take it easy.